This is a Vesper Martini, and to quote writer Ian Fleming, 3 measures of gin, 1 of vodka, half a measure of quinoa lillet, shake it over ice, and add a thin sliced lemon peel. Made famous by James Bond in Casino Royale, it is my personal favorite martini, and being an avid Bond fan, it fits today's guest perfectly because he played a secret agent in the hilarious musical comedy Spies Are Forever.
What if every few seconds you just did like that advertisement? Like,
Just constantly.
hey guys, are you feeling constipated?
Curt Mega can do it all. Acting, singing, writing, directing, producing, editing, and voiceovers.
I keep looking at the camera like I'm Jim from The Office.
He even has his own podcast called Story Matters. Kurt and I have been great friends for many years now, so it's always a great time to sit down and catch up over a nice cocktail. I'm Riker LYNCH, and this is Glass Half Full.
Yes.
Alrighty.
Let's get drunk. This is a lot for me.
Curt Mega.
Lightweight.
Thanks for being here, man.
Thank you for having me, man.
I'm
This
really
is so
excited.
exciting.
And when I called you to schedule this out and figure it all out, one of the calls went to voicemail.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And you have like a movie trailer.
Movie trailer guy.
as your voicemail.
You know what inspired me? So okay, you ever? This may be like dating me too much, but do you remember AOL Movie Phone?
No.
Okay, so back in the I guess it was early 2000s before we used the internet for movies and tickets. You would call the AOL hotline for movie times.
Uh-huh.
And I was obsessed as a kid with the voice because you'd call and it would go, "Hello and welcome to Movie Phone."
Okay.
And I would just talk like that all the time, much to the annoyance of everyone around me. And discovered that it sounded like a movie trailer guy. So then I love that voice. So yeah, my voicemail when you call me, it's like, "In a world full of voicemails," or something like that.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, that's exactly.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Exactly how it was, and I got a full laugh out of it. So
excellent.
I love that you're constantly all about movies, and
I love movies.
not only just movies, but I mean, you can do everything as far as entertainment goes.
I try.
I mean, I
don't dance very well. I don't dance.
No,
very well.
but you were. We met on Glee,
right?
And there was plenty of dancing there.
It was crazy. I literally was walking out of the gym where I work out. Is literally across from the street from where we had that first day on the set of Glee, where we were in those trailers.
Oh yeah.
Behind the Alex Theater.
Uh huh.
And I literally walked outside and was like, "Oh yeah, that's where I met everybody."
Yeah.
And I think I said something about your shoes. You had really cool blue Nikes on.
Oh,
and I was like, "Your shoes
blue,
are awesome."
I think I had blue Converse. I wore those to the premiere.
Yeah, maybe you said. I was like, "Those shoes are dope," and you were like, "Thanks, man." Yeah. And then that was that, and here we are. 8 years later, 7.
That was 2000.
Wow, it was 2010. That's crazy. That's insane. That's a long time. I feel old, but this is exciting. Okay.
So, as we talked about earlier,
yes.
The main inspiration. I try to do a drink that's sort of tailored to or inspired by the guest.
Something about us.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, my first choice was going to be some sort of an old fashioned. I was going to go for tequila old fashioned, but
which is very much like my favorite drink. It's that's
I
feel
like we had a lot of those on the Glee tour, and that was sort of the thing.
This is exciting because that's been my go-to sophisticated cocktail is old fashioned or maybe a Manhattan or something like that. That's kind of my flavor profile. So this is very different, and this is very exciting.
Well, you did Spies Are Forever.
I did.
And you played Agent Curt Mega.
Yes, I played myself
as a secret agent.
As a secret agent.
So that's what sort of inspired this, and I wanted to go in a little bit about that whole process because you guys sort of put that whole thing together on your own.
So one of my bucket list things to do, that's sad now that I've done it. I guess I'm ready to die. No, hopefully we'll do more of it.
Just one of your bucket lists. You have a whole lot of things you're going to do.
I love musicals, and doing Glee was a lot of fun, but I'm not when I was doing Glee, I was after the first few episodes, I started going up to New York auditioning for a bunch of Broadway shows because they were like, "Oh, you're in Glee. I guess you're a musical guy." I don't know if you got that kind of label at all.
You know what? After Glee, I jumped right into the band.
R5,
we did our thing, so I didn't really do anything.
I didn't really know where I was. I was kind of I don't know if I'm that. I mean, I love musicals. I love doing it, but I went and did the Broadway audition circuit. And kind of discovered that I sort of hated it. Flying into New York, walking into a room with a bunch of NYU, Juilliard
right,
you know, grads, and trying to compete when I was like an LA actor whose like primary focus was film and creating my own things, and so I felt very out of place, and so I kind of had sort of been like, well, I gotten callbacks and just never found much traction, and I thought, I guess just I don't know, I thought I'd lost theater. And so then when the Tin Can Brothers, Joey, Brian, and Corey approached me and were like, do you want to do an original musical? I was like, yes, like that's what I want to do. I don't want to go audition to be like number 472 to play the same part, which is an amazing thing, but it's just something I'm not as passionate about. But when they were like, we want to originate a show, that was the coolest idea to me. To do something that had never been done and to do it on our own.
Yeah.
And so we did it. That was like 2 years ago. And we did the show for like 6 weeks, and we put it up on YouTube, and it's gotten hundreds of thousands of views and a lot of fan fiction on Tumblr, rivaling our fan fiction.
Nice.
There's actually some like really, people still tweet me to this day like, you ever think about what happened? And it's like this show that people really latched onto, and it's homage to all the Bond films, to all the Mission Impossibles, but like with singing and dancing, and it's ridiculous. It's like if Mel Brooks made a James Bond movie. That's the way I would describe it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's great.
I thought it was great.
Yeah, it's funny.
So funny.
Thank you.
And I thoroughly enjoyed watching it. So did you, putting that together, were you involved in any of the like writing? Because I know you do a lot of writing.
I do a lot of writing. I didn't, and I mean the Joey, Brian, and Corey from the Tin Can Brothers, they actually wrote the whole thing, and you know, I mean, I trust them implicitly. They just are such funny, such great minds. But they were so they were like so free with us. So there'd be a lot of times where like there'd be maybe a monologue or something, and you kind of go, hey, what do you, and they go, what do you think? And you go, well, I feel like maybe like this. And they were so comfortable going, sure, try that. And a lot of times you work with people who are writers, and they're such sticklers for like, this is the text. And they were so free with that. So although I cannot take credit for anything, they also were very free with letting us sort of figure out the best way to say, this is this moment. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's
which is awesome.
Yeah, I think that's important. You know, because the actor's job is to bring that to life. So they need to be able to sort of you know, maneuver around what's given and make it real.
With it being a musical, it's crazy because it's a little bit more like, at the end of the day, like here's the numbers, and like it has to be pretty like you got to get it down. But even throughout the process of like doing the 6 weeks of shows, we still would play with things, and it'd be like, you know what, let's cut this, and let's have you say that, and you know what, it's funnier if you do that. So we kind of workshop the thing the entire time.
Evolving it. Wow, that's interesting.
So even though we did it, we really looked at it as a workshop. We still like say like that was a workshop. It was an amazing experience, but I think the vision was always to hopefully, knock on wood, come back and get to sort of reimagine it, learning what we learned in the process.
Maybe a national tour or something.
Yeah, or like doing a New York run, or I don't know, maybe a feature. I mean, it's really such a love letter to movies, which is kind of what I loved about doing it in LA, is it wasn't a Broadway musical. It's like, this is a musical about people who love action movies and spy movies. Totally. And so like all the humor was based, all the parodies were like, oh, this is Goldeneye. Oh, this is, you know what the sort of the archetypes are, and then of course it's hilarious when it's like people are singing about it.
Yeah, it was really funny, and I think a lot of people don't realize how difficult musical theater really is.
Yeah.
So because
I forgot.
Not only
I was like, oh, this is real hard.
Because I mean, not only are you having to be believable and you know, act and be in the emotion and all that stuff and say the right lines, which is all part of being on film or television. But then you have to sing on pitch. You got to be in key. You have to be in the right place at the right time on the stage.
It's this giant machine with 70,000 parts that have to all work every night. The thing I loved about it is it was kind of cool because unlike when I went to New York and I was like, I'm the guy from LA on a TV show auditioning for a Broadway musical, and people would be like, all right, fraud. This show was comprised entirely of predominantly film and TV actors who all started their acting because of theater. Who had all been like, we love theater, but had fallen in love with movies and had moved out to LA. And so we all brought this sense of like, we're not trying to be Broadway stars. You know, maybe one day some of us, who knows, but like for the sake of this show, we all had this like sensibility of like being film and TV and mostly comedy actors. And so that was like a really cool way of doing a theatrical production. Whereas, you know, I had done a show a year before that, like I'd done Les Mis, with some amazing actors, and half of them were on Broadway and had come from Broadway. But I don't know, I just like didn't quite feel like I belonged there as much as like I was around just like, I don't know, improvisers and comedians who were like, let's do a musical. So it was a really cool approach. Maybe musical theater purists would be like, well, this is not a real musical. But I think the heart actually made it even more fun. Right. Because you didn't feel like we were trying to be this like pretentious thing. We're like, no, we're singing and dancing. We know it's ridiculous. Yeah. So let's embrace that. And it is a ridiculous show. If you watched any of it, it's ridiculous.
I did. I was just before you walked in. We were finishing up. I think Act 2.
Okay.
So we're
yeah.
How does that work? Actually, we were wondering: is there multiple acts? Or is there 3?
There's
always?
2 acts.
2 acts.
There's usually 2 acts. I mean, some plays have 3, but musicals.
Because Shakespeare has like a bunch. Or
yeah,
something,
Shakespeare's
right?
like 5
all
and 6.
All over the place.
Yeah, we did a 2-act sort of thing, but then we released it incrementally on YouTube. So they would kind of find a nice like. It was funny because we would do the show kind of thinking about what we would put out on YouTube later. So there's kind of like edit points built in. So you'd be like, oh, and that's the end of this YouTube episode, but then it still needs to work on stage as one continuous experience.
Right.
So it was kind of a fun thing to know that it was always going to go up online, you know. And it was cool because we got to shoot it like almost like a sitcom. Like we had like a whole camera crew come in and do like a 3-camera setup and film an actual performance and then film special like close-ups and yeah, it was a really cool experience of taking all of the things that we love, which is comedy and parody and musical and film and TV, and like mashing it all together.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes and have people check it out because it's really fun.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
And another thing I don't think people realize about musical theater is it's not like you know in TV and film. And I'm not bashing on people in TV and film because that's incredibly difficult as well.
2 different things.
But two completely different things. But the thing that nobody realizes about musical theater or theater in general is on TV and film, you take one. All right, I'll get it in take 2. Like you don't get that. And granted, there's a lot more rehearsal, but each night someone's coming to the show who's never seen the show before.
Exactly.
So you can't just have an off night.
It's
you got to figure out how to be.
I'm sure you guys had that experience touring where you might have a great night in Orlando, but the next night you're in Kansas, and it's like these people are here for a fully new experience.
Yeah.
And
it's hard to remember that.
Yeah, I love film and TV, and I would say it comes with its own caveats of like being able to do a scene 50 times and like find the emotion every time.
Yeah,
that's really hard in its own way. But I definitely I work with actors and I coach and I teach, and I can always tell when people have done theater because they have such a strong sense of like every moment they're like, I have to commit to the scene.
Yeah,
a lot of film and TV only actors are like, well, like. We roll it, I'll get into it.
I'll get it, yeah.
But it's like I love people who've come from the stage because they're like, no, every moment, go for it, you know? And there's that passion and that drive because you go, this is it. Once the moment's gone, we're not going to go back and do it again if we didn't get it.
It's very much theater. And that's where you got started.
Theater
is the main thing. In Dallas?
Yeah, in Dallas. My mom played music. Well, she still does, actually. She was a musician. I got roped into being an understudy in The Sound of Music. And I was like, no, I don't want to do this. But I was stuck there because my mom was playing and I couldn't drive because I was 10. And so I got roped into it, and then I figured out like, oh, I think I love this.
Yeah.
And so then I did like, I don't know, probably 50 or 60 shows up till the time I was like 19 or 20 until I moved out to LA. So that's kind of was in my blood.
So when was the point where you were like, you're doing all this theater and you're like, this is really great, but I want to do TV and film?
I know, it's funny because I had often wondered if that myself, because I kind of like, I had always as a kid loved films and I loved movies and I loved imagining things, but every time I would watch a play I would always think of what it would look like as a movie. So I don't know why, I don't really know where I get that from. My mom raised me on watching Turner Classic Movies, which I'm very grateful for. I didn't play video games growing up. I just like read classic literature and watched like Turner Classic Movies, which is kind of nerdy, but I think I got a really strong appreciation for like what film was when it was very theatrical back in the day. And so I started to just think in my head as an actor, like I don't know, I imagined like, oh, I love this play or musical, but wouldn't it be cool if we could see it as a movie
on the screen?
I've always been that way, even with music. Like I love music, but I don't love music the way a lot of people do. I never buy an album and listen to it and just kind of go, I like this music. Every time I like something, I know I like it because I start to see things that I would film with it. I'll hear a song.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
And I'll be like, and we cut to a girl, and she's walking down the street. And like I've always, I don't know where that came from, but it was in my head, and so I came here and I was like, I hope I like this.
Do you?
I do actually.
Do you see, like, when you're listening to music? Do you see? Is it more like a music video that you see, or do you see like, oh, this part in this film, this is what I would do?
It inspires like characters and stories for me.
Okay.
It almost like feels like score, you know. So when
Right.
a song like reaches out and speaks to me, like whether it's a mood or a tone, it'd be like that's like almost like a jumping off point in my head of like, oh yeah, this is like, you know, a summer fling, and where I could see the whole story like laid out. So it's funny because people often I have this bad habit of not listening to new music. I go back to the music I love over and over and over and over and over, and I should probably expand. But that's because a lot of the stuff I love is so cinematic. Mm-hmm. I love music that feels cinematic, and I don't just mean like score, like violins. I mean music that has like a story to it. That has like an arc. Yeah. It's not just like.
Well, you're a big U2 fan.
A big U2 fan, yeah, especially classic U2, Coldplay, which are very sweeping sort of sounds.
But they're cinematic.
Yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I freaking love Green Day is one of my favorite bands. Mm-hmm. Like old school Green Day still to me is cinematic. When I hear them sing and I hear the lyrics, like I imagine these characters like angsty, like pissed off teens. Like,
I feel like you need to be an American Idiot.
Yes. When I saw American Idiot opening night on Broadway, and I was like, this is all my dreams.
Like everything in one.
They're supposed to do a movie of American Idiot, and I keep like,
I
keep going to deadline, being like, where's this gonna happen? So yeah. So there's something, I don't know where it came from, except I did watch classic movies growing up, but I've always loved movies and TV. And then I started doing it, and I discovered that I think I feel more comfortable I feel comfortable on both, but I think my heart is I love creating film.
Yeah.
I love creating things that move for the camera. But I do love theater. When it's good, but I feel like theater's bad a lot of times. So I find myself sometimes going like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm a little bit the same way with new music. A lot of times you're like,
I don't know about this though.
I don't know, man. I can't really get into it. But then every once in a while, it's something new, and it's brand new and totally different than everything else. And you're like, that's fantastic.
Well, the thing about music that I love is that music to me is like poetry. In poetry, my English teacher always said, fewest possible words, most possible meaning. And so I love music because I feel like you can unpack it beyond just the 2-minute or 3-minute experience you have.
Yeah.
So to me, great albums live on for years, and so I keep revisiting the stuff that I love, and it keeps, and to the extent that people are like, oh, have you heard this so and so's new album? And I'm like, no, I'm still listening. I'm still listening to this one from like
Coldplay.
Yeah, from like
Yellow.
04. Yeah, like, but those songs are timeless, and they strike a chord with you, and you. The same thing with movies, like. I can watch my favorite films I've probably seen 50 times because I feel like a great piece of art is only good if it can be revisited. Like if you can only listen to something once or twice and you go, I'm done, I go, it's probably not that good. Yeah. It's fine. But to me, something great warrants like a second listen, a third listen, a 1,000th listen, a 500th watch. So I love to go back to the stuff that I love.
That's awesome.
So maybe I'm a little boring.
I'm with you on that. So. You've done a great handful of acting stuff, but I want to talk a little bit more about, because I've had a lot of actors on the show.
Yeah. I
haven't had a director. I haven't had a writer.
I do both.
So you do both, and you do a lot of it. Like I was checking out your IMDb credits, and you've done tons and tons of little short films.
Right.
And you write and direct most of them.
Right.
So you're doing 2 jobs at once, and then you have the feature.
And I edit now, which is a thing I didn't even know I could do. And then
I told you can do everything.
Yeah, but I discovered I really love editing too. So
wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, because you're working on that feature right now.
Yes.
Which you're kind enough to ask me to be in.
Which you were kind enough to do. You're great.
Thank you.
I still haven't seen your footage. Oh God.
Oh, it's okay. No worries.
You're great in it.
You sent me the daily after we shot it. And that was great. So I love seeing it's very exciting to see your work.
Thank you.
Especially that fast. Like I heard, I believe it was Matt Damon. He worked with some director, and every night he would go home, and they would have an email, and it was the scene they shot cut and done. So, and it was great. He said it was great because if you didn't know something like that you had shot already, it was like you weren't doing your work.
Right. Well, I love I like cutting things as I go, I've discovered, because it feels like when I film something, if I can at least get my hands on a rough edit, it helps me figure out what it is we're making.
Yeah.
You know, if I just shoot everything and I go, well, I'll come back to that in a month and I'll figure it. I'm never going to
That would freak me out.
Yeah. I'm never going to be more in tune with what we were doing than that night.
That's actually a very good point.
I go home and I go, yeah, it's take 7. Oh, yeah, and that's take 2 that we... And I like piece together, and I go, I'll come back to this with some distance and perspective.
Yes.
But I love that, and I feel like it gives actors and the creative people in the team this exciting moment where they go, oh, that's what we're doing? And you're like, yeah, see? And they're like, oh, I get it. And it's just like this cool, I don't know. I can't help it. I go home, and I'm like, I won't. And I'm like, okay, I will. And I spent like way too long, like up to
I love that. I love that you're so passionate about it. You're so into it. And you're writing with your buddy?
Yes.
This is the namesake.
Yeah, the Nameless. The
Nameless, sorry.
Yeah. So it's crazy. So yeah, this is a crazy process where we crowdfunded this film, and people watching may be backers of it, like almost 3 years ago. And it was supposed to be short film shot on GoPros. Because we had no money, we had no resources, and I knew very little. And I just knew how to write. I didn't know how to really make films to the extent that I imagined it. And so we crowdfunded it, we started shooting, and I hated it. Like, I hated what we got. I was like, this is awful, and I hate it, and why are we doing this? And we did like a bunch of test footage, and we just never were happy. So we did a really scary thing, which was we scrapped the entire idea. We threw it all out and kind of begged our backers to sort of be patient. And we went back to the drawing board, and we sort of figured out what we really wanted to say. And we spent about 1.5 years rewriting the script, and this past February really started like actual official production on it, and I've just been shooting nonstop. But it's crazy when you have no money, because we literally have about $8,000 for the entire film, and we're going into our own pockets. But it really makes you make better choices, because you're like, I have no options, so I'm going to do the best I have with what I have.
Right.
Instead of like, well, where could we shoot? It's like, we can shoot here because this is what we have.
Because this is my house.
Yeah, and so you write for what you know, and you create with what you can, and I feel like it actually makes everything more specific.
It's probably slightly easier to make quick decisions, I imagine.
Because you go, well, should we do it in a coffee shop? And you go, no, we don't have one. So why would we write that scene? Nope. And it like really helps you just like go, what can I do? And I guess that's been kind of my like theme creatively in life, has been like, can I do more with less? I have never been the person to have like all the opportunities or money or whatever, and that's great if people do, but to me it's like, and I actually, you guys, you and your family with R5 and all the stuff you've done have been a huge inspiration, because I feel like you guys, when you started, I remember going to the like OC fair, but you guys had
what you did before that? It was a little tiny like broken down church thing. We had shot like 2 episodes of Glee.
Okay.
And I was like, you guys want to come see my band?
Yeah.
And it was in this church up in the valley.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do, and I couldn't go to that show.
Oh, you weren't there?
I didn't go to that one.
I literally am looking out in the crowd, and I swear
Titus
I see
and Dom went, and I couldn't go.
Titus, Dom, and Luke went.
But then I came to the OC show.
Okay.
Yeah, but you guys, and I'm not saying you started with nothing, but you started with your talent and your ideas. And you guys like believed in what you could do way before like everybody else was like knew what it was. You know what I mean? And I just have seen you guys blossom, and you and even the Star Kid people and the Tin Can Brothers, those people in my life have been so inspiring, because they've all taught me like, hey, don't wait till you have everything. Start with what you have now. Go make something, and like great stuff can happen, Yeah. So that's been like my theme, is like write and create and direct what I can right now, and then the rest will happen.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's great, dude.
Yeah.
Do you think that now that you're doing a lot more writing and directing, do you think those traits are making you a better actor?
Oh, it's like absolutely changed everything.
Really?
Like, it's fundamentally, I go, especially, and also I coach and teach, and so that's been a huge thing, where now I'm like, I understand what it is. I think before I used to think like, acting is this, and I'm like, no, this is the thing. This scene is this. This is your intention. This is your motivation. Go, do it. That's the scene, and it's helped me be faster, quicker, smarter, more efficient. Understand that it's not all about you. Especially when you're acting in your own thing and you're directing.
Right.
The last thing you're worrying about is acting. You're like, oh,
that's funny.
Am I in the scene now? Okay.
You're like, what's my line?
I'm thinking about like, are we in focus? how was the sound?
Right.
Did you see that shadow of the boom pole? Like, and it really has helped me as an actor when I'm on somebody else's set recognize my job is to make their lives easier, not to be like, how was that? Was it good? Be like, no, like my job is to like deliver. I always say to like my students, like the sound guy doesn't between every take go like, was the sound good? Did you like it? Did you want me to do? You're like, do your job, man.
Yeah.
I hired you because I believe in you and I want to see what you bring to it. And so that it's fundamentally,
That's great.
yeah, it's
That's
changed everything.
Great metaphor.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not really even a metaphor, but the sound guy definitely does not ever do that. That's
yeah, exactly.
Genius.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I even feel like with you guys like performing and singing, you know, you guys are writing these songs and rehearsing them. I have to feel like, I'm not saying you never have nerves, but when you go out there, you don't have like, oh, I hope you're like, this is what I do.
Yeah,
blood and sweat and tears.
Not so much in the live show. It's more of the writing where there's a lot more questioning.
Oh, absolutely.
And you know, because it's because you can rework that. You can you can focus it and work it for a long time before it's presented or before it's turned into, before it's brought to life. Whereas, like the live performance, it's now or never.
Right. But it's like, the nerves happen. I think that's what's changed for me is the nerves happen when I'm sitting there staring at a blank final draft document. And now the nerves of performing, where it used to, that's all I had. It's like, this is it. I hope I get it. Now I'm like, no. Like, I was working on this before, and I'll be working on it after the performance ends. And so I think it's helped me as an actor to be more confident in my choices and go. I used to be so insecure. I love acting, but I used to be so insecure.
Really?
And just be like, especially like when we were doing Glee and like, even like Uptown Girl, like I'm so grateful, but I was so terrified of just thinking like, did I suck?
I had no idea.
But now
that's easily my favorite.
Oh, me too.
Song.
Me too. But
like by a long shot.
Yeah.
It was so great. It was everything about that whole number.
Yeah, me too.
Was so fun.
But it feels now like I go, this is like a joy because I recognize how much work has come before and will come after. It doesn't feel like this is everything. So yeah, I think being on the other side has been like life-changing,
Really?
And I guess in my dream, I had somebody tell me today, they were like, so do you really want to be like more of a director now? And I was like, no, like I want to do everything.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
Are you leaning towards one or the other?
No, because I still love acting. I mean, I still love it. Like, it's when I get an audition, you're like, oh, yeah. So I know it's still there. Unfortunately, you can't make those opportunities happen for yourself. You can be prepared. You can go in. You can crush it. But at the end of the day, if you're not right for it, it doesn't matter what you do. If Zac Efron shows up, well, Zac Efron's getting the part. And I'm not. So it's like, I release that pressure of having to do something that I can't do, and creating things gives me the path, like it gives me the resources and the like path to go. But no matter what, I can do something,
Yeah.
So no, but in my fantasy, in my dream world, I would love to like have my own series that I would actually like write and sometimes direct and also be in. That would be the dream.
Yeah.
And put all my friends in. that would literally be my dream.
I want to be in this show.
That would be my dream. So we've talked about it. Some of the things that I want to do.
Okay, yeah. So that's actually a great question. So do you we might reach drunk history tonight, fellas.
Hey!
Jeez Louise.
This is heavy, y'all.
Yeah. Like I said, you don't feel like you have to drink the whole thing. Because I'm over here going, what's my next question?
It's happening. My ears just got really hot. Yeah, it's intense. See, I don't know how James Bond does it.
I don't know how he does it.
If I had to go save...
In Quantum of Solace on the plane, the bartender's like, he's had 6 of these. I'm halfway through, man.
You're done. No,
I'm not a little guy either.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a lightweight.
Right.
This is insane.
Because it's like pure alcohol. Anyway,
it is literally pure alcohol. I'm sorry. I'm just... Pull it together, Riker. Continuing with writing and directing, I just think that I'm really inspired that you are going after it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate
it.
And
I really admire that you just are like, I'm gonna if I like I call it the goodwill hunting motive now, because I recently realized that they were like, well, no one's going to cast us, so we're just going to write our own thing. And I'm a huge fan of that. Danny McBride did a very similar thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, well,
I mean, all the people, I think it hit me, like, all the people I admired and loved. I literally did, like, a thing about 5 years ago. I was like, who are the people that I love? Like, not that the people I just see that are famous and successful, but who do I love? And I, like, researched every one of them. And the overwhelming theme of every single one is like, oh, yeah, all these people got sick of, like, playing the game and, like, made their own thing happen. Every single one of them. Every one of them was like, I'm done being somebody else's thing. Here's what I want to do. And also created communities, you know, like Jonah Hill and all of his peeps, you know, and Seth, like, those guys worked together before they were somebody's, and now you're like, oh, they're so famous. You're like, yeah, but they've just been friends, and they just work
they're
together.
just working with their friends.
And you know, Amy Poehler and, like, the whole, like, their whole comedy kind of group. A lot of those people have just known each other since they were nothing, quote unquote. And I want to say nothing as in before people
they were struggling, you know, getting it going. But
they believed in themselves before anybody else did. Like I was saying with you guys, like when I first met you, there was such a not arrogance, but like a confidence of like, we got something here and we're gonna do it, and we're just gonna do it and see where it goes. Not like,
thanks, man.
I don't know, maybe it's bad. I don't know. If people like it, I'll keep. You're like, no, we got a thing. Come check it out. And you know, when we made Buffering, which is a thing you were on, and a bunch of other things that I've done, it's always been a thing of like, I don't know if people will like this, but I'm gonna do it and I'm gonna put it out there, and if one person gets something from it, I know I got a lot out of it, so hey, it was worth it.
Well, you know? I feel like you're one of those guys where if you're not creating, you're gonna go crazy.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I heard a Jim Carrey quote. He's like, if I'm not acting, if I'm not doing stand up or I'm on stage, like I gotta be painting or something. Like I'll go insane. Like so, and I feel like that's you.
That's
you
like
have
kind
to
of
be creating something.
The same drive with like editing after I shoot. It's like I literally feel like I've literally like woken up in bed and been like, I can't go to bed until I like write this scene or solve this like creative problem. So I don't know. It sounds like very artsy fartsy, but it, you know, I try to explain to people. They're like, you're always doing it. I'm like, it's not out of debt, because some people go, you just gotta take it easy. You gotta like relax. And I'm like, no. I feel most at ease when I am working.
Yeah,
hard
you're like,
I
love it.
Yeah, it's not like I go, I gotta do it so that I am relevant. I'm like, no, this is just what I would do, even if nobody was paying attention. Yeah, you know. And so I think if that's what drives you and motivates you, then, you know, if you're trying to create something out of the pure fear of like falling behind or whatever, that's a really dangerous place. But but if you're doing it because you love it, it's like that is healthy, you know. So
that's the best thing in the world.
Yeah,
like that's and the fact that you realize what you love and then you're doing what you love. Like a lot of people don't really know what they love yet. Like it takes a while, and I feel like, you know, you and me are similar in the fact that we hit, you know, probably 16 or 17, we're like, okay, I know. And
that's a rare thing, and I recognize that, and I think that this is a I don't want to use industry like as such a collective term, but like, you know, the performing arts and creating and being in front of a camera, like whatever, sharing your life with the world. I think a lot of people see it propped up and they go, that must be awesome. But it's not for everybody. Yeah. And I think it's okay if you realize you don't love that. But if you do, then I go, you do it, you know? And I don't know. I just feel like I was listening to a podcast with Mark Maron. And he's interviewing Kristen Wiig. And she said that she had her therapist actually, she was in a rut. She was working at an insurance office or a health insurance or doing something very like not what she wanted to do with her life. And he said, I want you to close your eyes and I want you to like take 5 seconds and I want you to blurt out the first thing that you wish you were doing. And she said she was like, comedian. She was like, what? She said she had no inclination except that that's something she'd always wanted. And when she was in a moment like willing to like confess it.
Right, willing to just give in.
And the therapist said, then go do that. Do it. Like you will find a way. And I think so many people are so worried about, you know, and obviously I say this speaking from a place of like, I'm very blessed. We've had a lot of opportunities to be able to pay the bills and things like that with creativity. I recognize that doesn't happen for everybody right away. But at the same time, I go, the reason we're in that position is because you follow your passions. And I guess that's like my thing is I want to inspire people to go, do something you love. You will find a way to like pay the bills and do like it is possible. It's possible.
It's definitely possible.
You know, it's not going to be easy.
No, it's not going to be easy. And you got to be willing to.
It's going to suck
hard.
sometimes, but if you love it, that's going to push you through. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to jump into before we kind of change subjects.
Yeah.
I have a couple more director thoughts. Do you, as a director, when you're working, do you feel that you want the actors or actresses to kind of bring a little bit of their own thing to the table, or do you visually have like all right, this is what I want to see?
Well, as an actor first, I am always on the actor side, you know, and a lot of the short films I've done have been in weird, bizarre, almost impossible situations.
That probably makes you a better director.
I hope,
being an actor.
yeah, because I've worked with directors where they're so like stuck on the technical side, where you're like, yeah, but do you know what we're doing over here? You're like,
I actually know exactly what you're talking about, and you're like, what you do a take and there's zero feedback, and you're like, I don't.
Yeah, and especially when you feel like it didn't work, and you're like, can we? And they're like, oh, and you're like, okay. So it's a tough thing with the director is you really do have to think about, did we execute it technically, but did we get the scene? And so for me, like as an actor first, I always want to see what you bring to it. I always do. And I'm also, as a writer, I love writing. I'm very not precious with my words. If I write like a monologue, I mean, this happened with the film that you're in, my film, where like you nailed every beat of like what the character was. I had in my head of like, well, I guess he would say this and he would say this, but then you brought yourself to it and you changed a few things. I think after a take, you were like, is that okay? And I was like, yeah.
I think I don't know if I even changed it on purpose. It just happened.
It was so much more real and natural. Now, I'm not saying every actor should go out and change people's words. And some, writers are very particular. But for me personally, I've never been in a position where I'm like, I need you to say my words. Because I'm like, this is where, how could I... as a writer, how could I know exactly what I want the actor to say? I can't until I see it. And I also think writers and directors who are unwilling to change are like screwing themselves over. So like if I'm watching a scene and I go, yeah, this doesn't sound good because I wrote a really stupid line. As a writer, you got to be willing to go, well, let's change it.
Yeah, let's change it. Yeah.
And same thing like music. Like you go like maybe you like I thought this would work, but you're like, it doesn't work. Let's change it. And I think. So no, I think I love when actors bring their own to it. I like that. Not there are certain shows and films it doesn't work in, I know. But for me, I'm like when actors work with me, I'm like, I hope like we're in this to like play. That's the whole point of doing it, Let's have fun.
Yeah, let's have fun and work off each other. I totally agree.
Yeah.
So you literally you do everything. You do a little bit of everything. Like let's just put it there. So we got acting, we got writing, directing, musical theater. You can sing. You can dance. You were on Glee.
Yes.
You have a podcast.
I do a podcast.
Story Matters.
Yeah.
What did that come about? Because you're in the middle of all of these things.
Right.
You're going out on auditions. You're writing your own short films. You're writing the Nameless. You're getting ready to direct the Nameless, and then you're like, you know what sounds like a good idea? I'm gonna add a podcast to this list.
Why? Yeah, that was interesting because I feel like for me, I wanted something, a film or an album or whatever. Those things take so long to finish.
Yeah.
This freaking movie's been taking us 3 freaking years. I know, and it sucks, and I want so bad to release things out there into the world. And just like you said, the podcast was almost born out of that, like, I have to do something.
Yeah.
And I wanted to create a platform. I love writing, and I do a lot of voiceover. And I love.
Okay, we're gonna add that to the list.
Yeah,
voiceovers.
I love being on the mic, and I love the voice. I grew up listening to again, I'm a very nerdy childhood now that I'm thinking about it.
All right.
I listened to old time radio growing up. Like
Okay.
my dad loves radio, and I had like cassettes back when that was a thing, children. And I listened to like 50s and 60s like sitcoms on the like radio shows like from
Real quick,
ABC.
cassette is like a Spotify playlist, but it only had 8 songs, and then you had to turn it over.
I like that the framework. It's like a Spotify playlist, but it's a physical object.
Yeah, and it was about that big.
Speaking of cassettes, so my dad, who I love, Dad, if you're watching this, my dad.
Mr. Mega.
My dad loves cassette players, and like they work. Like it's the thing is like they do work.
I had cassettes,
but he like to this day still owns like he bought like
a bunch of them.
He bought like in bulk like many like blank tapes because he's like,
I
need to stock up. So like in a box at my parents where they live, like there are boxes with like unopened Walkmans, like Sony Walkmans, the little clip-on, and like literally like hundreds of like blank cassette tapes that my dad still uses to this day.
Are they making their own playlists?
Well, the thing is, I was like, Dad, you could. There's these amazing devices, and they can contain thousands of songs. They're amazing.
You're like, you don't have to be stuck to just 16.
But he loves his cassette. But although that being said, though, he really has transitioned into like digital. So, but now he has a bunch of them left over. So cassette tapes, they're a thing of the past. Look them up, kids.
That is hilarious. It's the Spies Are Forever soundtrack.
Yes.
Uptown Girl.
On cassette.
For sure. On
but,
repeat.
Yeah, so I grew up listening to old time radio, and I loved radio, and I listened to like film noir, like I listened to like The Shadow, which is like a comic book crime noir, like old like actors on the mic. I listened to like My Favorite Husband, which is like Lucille Ball's original show. That's what became I Love Lucy. So I learned sitcom and comedy and like mystery and thriller from like radio.
Right.
Like as a kid, like listening to like radio shows where they had to do everything with the voice and with sound effects. And when I was a teenager, I was actually in a radio theater company where we'd go and perform around town and do live radio shows with a Foley artist doing the sound effects and the like gravel and the doorbell and all this stuff. So I've always loved sound and like what you can create, like the stories you can create with sound. And so for me as a voiceover actor, I've always loved bringing, I don't know, storytelling in as a like audio medium.
Right.
So I don't know. I always like, it was something I always wanted to do. I loved radio. I wanted to do more voiceover. And I had been doing voiceover several years before, and my agent had abruptly folded. Like my voiceover agency just ceased to exist. And I found myself unable to get signed, unable to get any work. And I was like, screw it. Same thing. I was like, I'm going to do my own voiceover. Yeah. So I started telling my own stories, writing stories about my life, experiences about Glee, and all these kinds of things, and just recording them and posting them and doing interviews. You were my very first person. I made you bulletproof coffee. Yes, you did. Yes. There's a history of us making delicious drinks.
Yeah, we're on each other's shows now. It's great.
And it was crazy because actually like 3 or 4 months after I started the podcast, I don't know, fueled by the motivation and momentum of that, I was able to get signed by an amazing voiceover agent and have been able to book like voiceover work, and I've really fallen in love with it again. And I don't know, I love going into a sound booth and like seeing like what stories I can create and tell, and using it as a platform to also inspire and reach people. So I love it. It's something I love to do. It's just like my own little thing that feels like it doesn't matter if it's viral. It doesn't matter if it gets sold or bought.
Creative
it's just
outlet, man.
It's just something I get to share, and if it's 100 people or 1,000 or 10,000 or whatever, it just feels like it's like a really intimate thing I get to share every week with people.
That's awesome. So now we have
StoryMattersPodcast.com.
There you go. We'll definitely put a link to that. I got to make sure I put links to all these.
Check out the episode with Riker. It's great. He was my very first episode.
The pilot.
Yeah, the pilot episode.
So, actor, director, writer, voiceover. We forgot to add editor. In the original lineup.
I love editing.
Editor,
yes.
Podcaster. Did I say voiceover?
Voiceover. Yes.
Voiceovers.
What else do I do?
Dancer. You can do
move.
enough. You can move.
Thank God for you. And I had Rashawn on the podcast, Rashawn Pates.
Yeah.
For like you and Rashawn and like the people who helped me on Glee, because real talk, those last few episodes, myself and John Hall were struggling in the back. You were up there killing. You were like, girl, and whatever, and we were in the back going like, "Come on."
Yeah, they stepped it up those last couple numbers we did for sure.
But I can move if needed.
Hey, you moved every night on the Glee tour, man.
Give me time, and I can learn it. I just can't.
You can figure anything out.
Exactly.
Before we let you go, I have one more question for you.
I'm ready for it. I need a drink first.
Have a sip. My last and final question for the night. Thank you again for being here.
I'm glad to be here.
Softball Sunday?
Softball Sunday.
That's my last question.
Yes. Is this Sunday?
Yes.
I will be there Sunday.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the show, man.
Thank you, sir.
Cheers.
Have a drink.
It's almost half.
Glass a quarter full. Doesn't roll off the tongue as much.
Not quite. But yeah, thank you. Thanks for being here, man. Careful.
There we go. That's how we end it. Okay.
And we'll fade out from there.